What?
Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.
Yo, what is going on? Welcome back to Best Ball Breakdown. It's Thursday night. It's the best night. You know what time it is. We're going to be ripping a draft on Underdog. Tonight, we are drafting BBM5. Myself and Hilo and the man himself, Thomas Tipple. Thomas said there's one house rule tonight, and we have to draft Chris Godwin. So if we don't leave this draft without Chris Godwin, we'll go up and get him in round 5 if we have to.
I might quit.
Yeah, I'm not scared, man. I'll do it.
We're going to do it. We're not drafting scared. If you're in Discord, hanging out in YouTube, hanging out on Twitter, you want to come jump in the draft, we're waiting on 10 people if you want to draft with us tonight. Mark, what's going on, man? You just dropped a week 17 DFS breakdown basically in June. I think you're the first person in fantasy football history to do it. Going into the unknown, it was truly, truly phenomenal. If you're high volume best ball drafter and not reading Hilo's piece, you absolutely should. Mark, what's going on, man?
Chilling, man. This has been a busy week. We're starting to get into the thick of it. Yeah. We're 2.5 weeks out from camps. Tickets are going on sale, so we're starting to get those juices flowing, and we're starting to really the lull of the last month or so is going to be completely flipped on its head here in 2.5-3 short weeks. So I'm excited, man.
Yeah. It's always a fun time. The next 3 weeks are kind of not much really happens, and it's just that little bit of down period that we get in between, and then it's just mayhem. I have been slowing down a little bit drafting just for that reason. Just ADPs are just not really moving that much.
Yep.
I am gonna really start picking back up though in about a month. Once camp starts swinging back around and we get into draft season, do you change up the frequency at which you draft during the summer?
Yeah,
I know you're a big May guy like me.
I'm so I break personally. I break I call the entire time that we can draft these contests the draft cycle. That's the day after the end of the NFL draft to the start of the NFL season. And then within that window, I break it up further into 3 distinct chunks of time, because what really is the biggest influence in those chunks is information. So my first draft window 1 for me is by the start of these contests opening until camps start, because information is relatively flat. The schedule release was in that window because us sickos were drafting before we even knew the schedule. But relatively speaking, information is relatively flat there. So, and then once we get to camp, we start getting more information with how the injuries are playing out, with how camp battles are breaking down, with coaching, what we expect from beat writers, from what they've observed at practices, stuff like that. We get more information once camp happens. So my second window is once camp starts until the start of the preseason. And then once the preseason starts, we get even more information. We get a little bit more in-depth glimpse into depth chart stuff. We get, who's playing, who's not playing, who plays one drive type stuff, though they're probably the starter. So I kind of break it down into those chunks, and that allows me to tailor my governing strategy, or how I'm attacking these drafts. So I've been extremely heavy 0 RB hero in this draft window 1, because historically we're going to see running backs with the highest magnitude in ADP movements. So that's something we can take advantage of, and that's going to change as we enter those other distinct windows. But to answer your question, the most wordy way I possibly can, because that's where it's high-low. I talk a lot. Jesus. I'm over the last week and a half, 10 days, maybe. It's been just the slow drafts that I have cooking. I haven't done many BBMs. I ripped 30 BBMs once the schedule was released. I tried to get in the maximum amount of variance I could with 20-25% of my drafts. And then now I kind of backed off. I've been doing a lot of the snapshot contests, the ones that have a smaller draft window in them. 12. Let's go.
Yeah, we're at the horn again. At the horn again, second straight week. But
no Omega. All right.
I thought you would be joining us, man. I thought you'd be joining us tonight. I appreciate you not. I'm with you though. I did in May, I think I've got 35 BBMs in. I think all 30 of them are right after the schedule release. Just ripping fasts. And then I'm saving pretty much all of my bullets for that second window and third window that you were talking about. Because right now, I mean, Underdog is pretty sharp in general. We are not going to see a bunch of the ADP movers at running back like you've been talking about all off season until we get to OTAs, until we get to training camp.
Yeah.
We're past OTAs now until we get to training camp. What's interesting though is we get this draft started. I thought we might see there's CMC Lamb. I thought we might see a little more running back movement, Mark, in that I don't know, like that 5th round range. Obviously Jacob come back to the pack, but basically like James Cook hasn't moved. Joe Mixon hasn't moved. I thought somebody would get steamed in that pocket.
I thought so
it
too.
It just seems like nobody's moving right now. And I'm good with it, but
I have a ton of Joe Mixon from those early windows because I was like, he'll be a middle to late 3rd rounder. And it just hasn't happened. So I don't know.
I thought Mixon would be the one. We kind of knew Rachaad White would peel back a little bit. Jacob same. But I thought Mixon would be the one who would really start maybe creeping into even the 4th, and he's gone backwards.
Mondre too. Mondre now anyway. Mondre is going to be the mover, but a lot of these running backs now, if you've waited to draft them later when their ADPs rise is just going to work so hard against you, which is why I feel like there is a better running back pricing range earlier in the offseason every year than there is later. So I do a lot of my drafting earlier just because I know a lot of people just end up trying to catch up on these mid-tier running backs, and they're already behind the game, in my opinion, because you're so stacked up at wide receiver.
Yeah. It's just been this RB market is really, truly been crazy. And right now, I mean, I've got Taylor and Gibbs back here at the back half, but Mark, I want you to take the lead today. We've had some guests on. It's time for you to kind of take the lead. What are you doing here at 12?
I'm getting a little funky, man.
Please, let's do it.
We can do some interesting things here. Dude, let's double stack San Francisco wide receivers. You don't see that a lot.
All right. I love that.
Ayuk Debo.
Yeah. So, what is the reasoning behind that? The reasoning is those guys are highly unlikely to align in ADP from when these contests opened and for the rest of the draft cycle. So you are the risk of going bonkers or getting funky with ADP now is we can't project or we don't know where the ADP movements are going to go. But with these two in particular, it's highly unlikely that they're both going to fall to the 2-3 turn. What would it take for that to happen? I can't even think of a scenario where they would both fall to the 2-3 turn, because if one is falling, the other is probably rising. If Brandon Ayuk gets traded, something's going to happen with that specific meta of ADP. But they're both not likely to fall. So that kind of risk of those ADP movements is lessened a little bit with these two guys in particular. And we know perennial top 5 scoring offense. We know that they trade spike week potential. They're both likely not going to go off in the same week, but that's a little bit less important to us when we have 18 rounds. All those things kind of go in. It's the risk is very low, but the upside is rather large with these two in particular. So I like getting funky where we can, where it makes sense, where you're not sacrificing EV to do so.
I love that. I've been at this spot. I've taken Gibbs and Ayuk together to get the little week 17. I have not done this though. I do like this for all the reasons you outlined. I also like it because, yes, if we project Purdy for a little less, fewer touchdowns, a little less efficiency year over year, Debo and Ayuk last year were still top 10 scoring wide receivers. And if we know Ayuk is going to be back with the team, maybe the defense regresses a little bit more and they have to throw a little bit more. Sure, the touchdowns come down, but we know these guys can be top 10 guys together. And it's a way to get weird. It's a way to get weird because I don't think very many people are taking Ayuk and Debo, and we still have obviously plenty of Lions, equity if we want to get some week 17 stat going. Purdy's ADP also is on the opposite side of the board because typically Ayuk and Debo are going on the opposite side of the board too. So just get a different roster construction going here. And I was hoping you were going to take it. I was figuring you would want to take a Niner and maybe with Gibbs, but I do love the double stack here. Real quick, Gibbs falls to 17. I think that's the latest I've seen him go.
Yeah,
a little Bijan Gibbs team, and I'm not drafting very many RB teams, but that's a pretty nice one to get weird there.
What are your thoughts on Gibbs while we're talking about him?
I haven't taken him very much. I just think Montgomery's touchdown
I've taken him a lot.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry, but 11 touchdowns for David Montgomery in that offense. I don't see it with how many like falling down at the one there's been with that team. I can't see him repeating that.
So there's two things here. When Montgomery came back from that injury, he missed 3 weeks with the injury, came back. Gibbs was more involved. His route share targets were about the same. The red zone stuff was a little bit more in Gibbs's favor, but Montgomery still had 19 carries to 10 for Gibbs inside the 10. I just think Montgomery's touchdown ceiling really limits Gibbs's ceiling. And I mean, if Montgomery were to get hurt, Gibbs is going to smash. So he could be the RB1 this year if Montgomery were to get hurt. I just think I don't know, man. It's been tricky to gauge Gibbs. I thought he might come back a little bit in this ADP market, but he hasn't either.
Yeah. There's like two stats that are kind of pulling at opposite ends with that backfield in particular. It's like Jahmyr Gibbs' carry rate before and after DMO's injury. And then there's also like their workload split in games they won versus they lost. So DMO was much heavier involved in their wins. We saw his carry rate. We saw Jahmyr Gibbs' carry rate go up from like 32% prior to DMO's injury to like 48% or 44%, something like that. It's like what wins in that situation? We don't know, but like we do know that the Lions go from like one of the harder strength of schedules in 2023 to one of the easier strength of schedules in 2024. So does that like point to DMO? I don't know. Yeah, very, very interesting dynamics there.
Interesting dynamic here. We got Henry falling to us again in this spot.
Let's do something that is going to make people feel uncomfortable and not take a wide receiver here. Let's go Henry and Kelsey.
Yeah, like it. That's where I was thinking too. Higgins is really starting to come up in price here, man. I've got a lot on DK. Don't have much on Underdog. He's really starting to come up in price. I do think he's going to be capped by these quarterbacks here. Like, do we really start seeing Higgins go ahead of Josh Allen consistently, ahead of Hurts consistently? Where do you think Higgins' ADP ends up sitting?
So Higgins is a guy that I don't see why he's moving up.
I think his price is fine. I think wide receiver 28, 29 is fine.
Yeah, right.
Him steamed here is.
It's the like meta of what we're drafting with ADP this season. Like, sure, T. Higgins might beat wide receiver 29. He's most likely to beat wide receiver 29. But what are you sacrificing by saying, oh, I'm comfy, T. Higgins finished wide receiver 24, I got him at wide receiver 29? You're sacrificing like a potential top 3 running back or a top 1 quarterback or a top 1 tight end. So a lot goes into it that like, yeah, we want to draft wide receivers. We know we have to. The standard guidelines of 4 wide receivers through the first 7 rounds, like we want to be hitting those wickets, but at the same time, like I'm not happy about drafting the wide receiver 29 over the potential running back 1 or the potential tight end 1. So yeah, there's some weird dynamics at play this season. Also, like with T. Higgins, has kind of proven to be just like a steady Eddie wide receiver 2 as long as Jamar Chase is healthy. So you're saying like, yeah, he could beat his ADP currently, but like, what does that give you outside of the contingent value behind Jamar Chase? Because he's highly unlikely to be a wide receiver 1 as long as Jamar Chase is healthy. Jamar Chase is just the dog.
Yeah, exactly. It comes back to what you get when you're right. And if Chase plays all 17, like Higgins' absolute ceiling is like wide receiver 15, probably. If the Bengals just absolutely smash, and yeah, sure, that's a great pick there. But you're right. I mean, George Pickens' absolute ceiling is definitely not wide receiver 15. It's top 12. I think Christian Kirk, you can make an argument. I mean, some of the numbers we have on him coming out are excellent on Kirk. You can make an argument he's top 12.
Yeah, the list goes on. There's exactly. that tier is so flat that like I don't see why T. Higgins is separating from it. Is I think the most succinct way to put that.
Yeah. I love this funky little build here. Not many Debo, Ayuk, Henry, Kelsey teams in BBM right now. At least,
and we still got back stack ability too.
Yeah,
back correlation ability.
Yeah, for sure. I will say Mark Andrews has been a priority for me in round 4. Like that's just been a guy I'm just absolutely smashing. I think his touchdown equity is the same as it's always been. His role is the same as it's always been, and we're just getting, obviously he didn't come close to paying off ADP last year. Then he got hurt. This discount is too much though. And I think the tight ends are really flat. I think Laporta, Kelsey, Andrews, McBride, all of it's pretty flat. I know you have McBride kind of at the end of that. Do you have like Pitts and Ingram ahead of McBride too? I know you're kind of down on the Cardinals a little bit. Well, at least relative to kind of like the bullish consensus.
I do. I have not updated my rankings to reflect that. I don't think, which are out at 1 week season, but I do. It's been a couple weeks since I updated my rankings, and it's just it's like, yeah, we should be like paying attention to rankings, but like no news has popped in the last 3 weeks. Like, what are we even updating? Yeah. It's like you're flipping around 17, 18th rounders. Cool. Congrats. But yeah, I don't know. It's not that I think Trey McBride will finish outside the top 5 at the position in median at the end of the season, but I think his path to spike weeks, which we know are so valuable in this format, is much smaller or much more constrained than just a lot of the guys going behind him. I mean, George Kittle, like, why are we shitting on George Kittle right now? He's got a wide range of outcomes. That's awesome. Like, figure out how to build that into your rosters instead of saying, I'm not going to draft him because he has a wide range of outcomes. Like,
in season long start set, I can understand not wanting to draft Kittle because you're going to pull your hair out because there's a month where he scores 15 fantasy points. But in best ball, there's, we don't really give a shit about that.
Yeah, we're
taking Godwin. We're taking Godwin. Let's go, boys. We got that first spot.
Now we can go double wide receiver. Take Godwin, nuke. I like that.
It's just insane to me that you look at the range of receivers that went on this run, like the Cooper, the Higgins, the Kirk, and whatever, and we're just leaving Godwin for the taking after all of that. It's just they're just so mispriced.
Yeah,
we're talking about nesting. We're talking about nesting doll wide receivers, and we're still getting one of the upper tier of the Spider-Man meme wideouts here all the way back at this back end. He is a perfect receiver for the 12 spot. A lot of people don't like drafting at the 12 spot. They feel uncomfortable. They don't know what they're going to get. Like you said, if you just don't smash wide receiver nonstop early, he's just a simple, easy pick to make up that first 4 wide receivers in the first 7 rounds, man. He's just an absolute smash.
It's also like a function of, specifically speaking to Chris Godwin, it's like also a function of people being so married to ADP. It's like, well, okay, he's going to be on my 7th through 12th picks. It's like, we know ADP is inefficient. We know it's going to change. We know like all this movement's going to happen. As long as you're not bleeding EV and making egregious errors, you're okay. You have freedom to like stray from ADP. People are so, it's just like this psychological aspect.
Well, and it's especially this year in this spot at 12 because there's 11 first round picks in my mind. That first 11, I think it's pretty efficient. This is one of our more efficient first rounds. Get weird at this 12 spot. Get weird in the second round. Like, I've been preaching this. Like, Chris Olave is one of my favorite picks in the second round. I've been taking quite a bit.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've been taking quite a bit of Olave. I've been taking quite a bit of Waddle. But just get weird in those spots, man. Like, find different ways to find different roster combinations, kind of like how we did here. As we continue this draft, make sure you use code FANTASYPTS. Get yourself a $5 standard subscription to the best fantasy football site on the internet. Use code FANTASYPTS on Underdog. Get yourself a $5 standard subscription and a deposit match up to $250. Hilo. Not a bad deposit match.
Solid.
There.
Real solid.
Very solid. And you know what else is solid? Rashad White going to 71. I have not taken much Rashad White, but I was about to say these running backs are really falling here, especially White.
Yeah.
Deep at 71 here.
Now we start to read the room, right? Like, so much stuff happens in a best ball draft that I think just a lot of people are not paying attention to. It's like we've seen quarterbacks kind of slipping. We've seen running backs kind of slipping in this draft. And we see that a lot recently this year, but something to take note is like, hey, we might be able to push it a little. It's hard to do at the end, right? It's really hard to do when you
get boxed out quick. You can get boxed out quick, man.
Yeah, but I'm specifically like quarterback might be something we push here. We're through 6 rounds and the standard like 6 names have gone off the board, but kind of later than we're used to. So it might be something to just keep in our back pocket here.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Make sure you're using that guile as you're drafting. But that's my least favorite thing about picking at 11 or 12 this year is just getting boxed in at quarterback. It happens so often this year.
Well, I find you often have to reach for one.
Yeah.
If you want to complete your stack, and it feels uncomfortable. But if you draft smart early, that couple spots in ADP does not really upset me late when I'm drafting, especially going into it, knowing that it's probably going to be the case.
Yeah, I couldn't care less. I'm completely fine blowing out ADP for stacks. Chris has done a lot of great work on this last year. He was running Sims and basically was showing that like not only like should you not care about blowing out ADP value to get stacks, like it actually helps in your advance rate. It helps in the playoff rounds. It helps by your average score. I'm with you. We're definitely not going to do that here with Purdy.
I'm very pro Andre here.
Receiver dried up.
That's okay. We're fine.
Yeah, we've got 4. I love Jonathan Brooks for this team.
Yes, sir. Especially with Derrick Henry having a late buy. I talked about that in a couple of places here.
We're gonna take John Brooks. Who do you feel strongest about of Mondre, Zamir, Raheem? I've got Najee a little lower than ADP.
Yeah. I like going, especially if we take John Brooks, which we're about to. This is something that I just talked about this past week, going another late bye week running back here. So I prefer Zach Moss, which gives us a little bit more options. I just had this discussion in OWS Discord today about Zach Moss. It's like somebody asked, are you worried about Brown like becoming a number 1? It's like, not really. Like the dude played very few third down snaps last season. And that's very clearly because he is not good in pass pro. So are they going to put subject Joe Burrow, who has a fairly lengthy injury history at this point in his career, to that? Probably not. So it's like, is it going to be like, who's it going to be on third down? I mean, Zach Moss showed that he is an absolute boss on third down in pass pro last year. So to me, like Zach Moss has some fairly significant upside in that role. Like everything from him being 75% snap rate type back as like the unquestioned lead back with third down duties, with 2-minute drill duties, because they're going to be passing to like, it's an even split is kind of his range of outcomes from a season long perspective. So like now, based on like where this draft is going and knowing that we have Jonathan Brooks, who we're kind of counting on as potentially not being a top 5 back, what his ceiling really is, which is like top 5 back, but that could not happen until after his bye week in week 11. Well, now we have Derrick Henry and Zach Moss who have bye weeks after that point on this team. So they could get us there. And then we harness like Jonathan Brooks upside. And that's within Zach Moss's range of outcomes. And I think he's a solid pick for this particular roster.
Yeah, I'm into Moss. I have him like right at ADP. He's one of these guys, man, where like 3 years ago, he probably would have gone round 5. I'm completely fine with this profile at pick 85. Like we know he's not good. Like we know he's not going to be this like explosive.
We know he's not great. Yeah.
He's not going to be this explosive, efficient player. But like you outlined, he'll probably be their guy on most passing situations. And if he gets all the goal line work, that's a great. That's a great pick at 85 on this team. Yeah. I mean, Chase Brown has a profile that just like I typically avoid at running back regardless. Thomas and I were going back and forth about Joe Mixon before he got traded. And I was like, dude, I just think Mixon's probably going to be the 65% snap share guy. Brown will mix in. And I just kind of feel the same way with Moss. Like he's going to be the 60 to 65% snap share guy. Brown will mix in for his 6 to 8, probably meaningless-ish touches. And unless Brown gets the goal line work, like the biggest allure to me with Moss is him getting all the goal line work on this offense.
Yes. Yep.
That's really it.
Top 5 offense with a healthy Joe Burrow and a healthy Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Like it kind of blows my mind that he hasn't moved up either. Same with Jonathan Brooks. We've talked about him before. It's like this is a weekly game. He's got immense upside once hopefully he takes over a large portion of that backfield.
Yeah, Moss, his range of outcomes is, pretty narrow, I feel like, in terms of like his floor, but the touchdown ceiling in this offense is strong. This is where all the backs are going. The market has completely priced up all the receivers. That's another great thing about this running back market, man, is like, if you guys are going to price up all these receivers, that's fine. And then you're just going to like correctly price all the previous dead zone backs into this pocket now. That's nice too. And I'll just sit back and continue to take these backs here. The thing with Brooks, man, is I don't think his ADP is going to budge until we get to camp. There's still that looming risk of, he could start the year on PUP. Certainly well within his range of outcomes.
Oh my Lord.
What's that?
Oh, we got some stuff onto us here. I'm not going to say.
Yeah, we got a lot. We got a lot
going for us here.
Yeah,
an assortment of riches, one might say.
Well,
this is what we were talking about with quarterback. Yeah, this is what we were talking about.
You read the quarterback room, right? This guy's got 2. Interesting. He just got Benson. We know we're going here. We also have. Let's see what this guy goes.
Yeah, don't hover. Don't do it.
Yeah, I'm not.
Hands off, Graham.
He should not have any reason to click that name, but we'll see.
Yeah,
he did it. You fuck, God, dude, come on now. That would have been such a solid pick. Oh my God. Yeah, Purdy is got to happen, and then go to ADP for me.
Yeah. Damn, man.
Yeah, Dak would have been just absurd with this roster construction at that point.
He did have Ferguson, so it makes some sense. But
let's go Love Purdy. Let's double tap here.
Love Purdy.
We still have some opportunities to do some fun stuff with that.
Yeah, I was wanting Dak with Cooks, honestly.
Yeah, me too.
He did have Ferguson. Funky little team, but
he'll probably take Cooks on the way back. You imagine?
Nah, Cooks. I don't think Cooks is making it back to 130. Love and Purdy, fun little dubs. Yeah. Okay. Nice.
Yeah, we still got room to maneuver.
This could be a 4 RB team for sure. Henry, Brooks, Moss. This could definitely be a 4 RB team. I like that a lot, actually, for the squad. All right, rounding into round 10 here, we got Hilo. You read this quarterback room pretty much perfectly. We got Dak falling to 107. We took Naked Love. Got plenty of room for that.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels falls to 112. Who else? There's one more guy.
So Naked Love over somebody like Daniels and some cheap options. Let's talk about that because Jaden Daniels is one of the guys,
man.
Yeah. Packers offense.
Touchdown.
Sure. Yeah. The Packers rushing offense. Upside doesn't interest you at all that this could be a rookie finishing within the top 5 in a Cliff Kingsbury offense.
It's great. Yeah, well, that's a different. I could talk an hour about Cliff Kingsbury.
I gotta ask.
Living in Arizona, I know all about this little Cliff Kingsbury fella. No, so I did a study before last offseason about the correlation between touchdowns and the 4 major positions, and I found that the highest correlation between touchdowns and fantasy scoring is at quarterback. So while Jaden Daniels, he might add 6 points on the ground. That's his median for a week. He might score score maybe 4 or 5 rushing scores this season. He might add 30 to 60 yards per game on the ground. That's great for floor, for his median expectation, and for his condensing his range of outcomes. In order to hit that high end, the top 20% of players' range of outcomes at quarterback, you need touchdowns. And right now, Washington, what are they projected? Bottom 10 offense. They're not expected to light the world on fire as far as scoring. They're probably going to be in the bottom 4 or 5 in the NFL in time of possession, in total number of offensive plays, which is going to be influenced by obviously their pace of play that we expect and the amount that they throw. But like, to me, it's a similar discussion to a guy like Ladd McConkey. Like, he'll probably finish around where he's being drafted in ADP, and that's fine. Like, it's an okay pick, but the weekly upside is severely lacking. And that's kind of part of the reason why I'm lower on the Arizona Cardinals than a lot of the community. And Washington is kind of in that same vein. So like, yeah, like Jaden Daniels is an elite, absolutely elite pick in the eliminator, where it's like you have to beat 50% of your pod in a given week, because his range of outcomes is going to be more tightly compacted about his median. Whereas a guy like Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, they have 4 or 5 touchdown games within their single week range of upside, range of outcomes. So like, that upside is meaningful in this game, where we know we can stack on 2 of those guys or 3 of those guys and kind of make up for that slight dip in median or in average, or however you want to picture like his range of outcomes. You can make up for that via roster construction.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my thoughts on that. I don't know.
Mine is just like, if I'm breaking ties in this type of situation, I'm always leaning towards the better team. You know,
that's fair. Yeah.
I mean, that because for all the reasons I outlined between touchdowns, also like Jane Daniels, to me, it's like, hold on real quick. Oh, wow. Actually,
yeah, he might get it.
Shit. I was like looking at the board. I was like, let's see. Yeah, Wicks is just freaking holy shit. He's been a rocket ship.
Is this dude gonna lock in Cooks like I said on the way back?
Yeah.
That's wild. And
yes, he is.
He doesn't take him, bro. That's on that dude.
Yep. Great job.
You didn't mess it up. Great job.
Yep.
Yeah, I like another wide receiver here. Just take Jacobs.
And do you want to do a little Marshawn Lloyd maybe?
I don't hate it.
Last running back.
As the last running back, there's some guys that profile similarly to him, like still available in the 17th round. So as an RB4, if we're taking 5, I don't mind it. But
we'll take Jacobs for sure. He's
yeah.
Receiver.
There's just not a lot here, though. Yeah.
Nah, I got it by ADP. Leggett would be all right with like Brooks.
No, yeah, take Lloyd. I think it's fine, nice. And then he's got a late buy.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's do that. I have a grip of Lloyd, so I don't hate that one bit.
I have a bag full of Lloyd on DK.
Yeah.
A lot softer ADP. Myers at 132 is nice. He's boring, but he's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we were talking about. Who the hell were we talking about? What wide receiver were we talking about earlier?
Wicks?
I don't remember.
We're talking about Wicks?
No. Oh, the Chargers rookie.
McConkey. Oh, McConkey. Ladd McConkey.
We're talking about McConkey. It's like, what's different between Jacoby Myers and Ladd McConkey? Jacoby probably has a better single week range of outcomes than Ladd McConkey does. And McConkey's going in the 70s, and Myers is like 40, 50 picks after that. I don't understand.
The hope would be that Ladd is the clear wide receiver 1, whereas I don't think that's really in Jacoby's range of outcomes unless Devontae Adams dies and Brock Powers dies. I was with you. I've not been taking a whole lot of Ladd in the 6th round. I was in the 7th and 8th. I just don't. I'm more with you on the fact that the Chargers probably aren't going to be a super pass heavy offense. I was taking Josh Palmer quite a bit, but he's gotten steamed correctly.
Yeah,
it's just been one of those efficient market things. Palmer was mispriced. Now he's correctly priced. I do think Herbert has obvious upside, especially if they run him a little bit more, which is really interesting.
That's what's interesting to me. Yeah, and I didn't come onto that conclusion until maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Scott was mentioning this like right.
It was
when
probably Scott.
Yeah. Scott was mentioning this like right when they signed or they brought Roman in, and I was like, I don't know, dude. Like, I feel like if they would have Herbert wanted to run, he would have already done it. But like, it's always kind of been a thing in Roman's offense. You give him like 2 or 3 design runs per game, like that would be a huge floor boost. Herbert would smash ADP if that were the case. And that's, that I do think the most likely outcome with the Chargers is their defense stinks. Their offensive line has not been as near as good as they wanted it to be. Like, they're probably going to be a crummy team.
They've been hurt, yeah.
But on that same token, man, like, maybe they don't run the ball as much as they think. We know Herbert's awesome. Like, maybe they use QJ a little bit better. I still think there's plenty of upside with Charger stacks.
Yep.
But I hear you. They're most likely going to be a very run-heavy team. Very boring, very slow.
Most likely. That's one of the more guaranteed things on this earth in 2024, Graham.
Nothing is guaranteed in this silly game we're playing, though.
I don't think anything's guaranteed. I don't think anything's guaranteed, man. I'm just saying they could stink. Like, they could absolutely stink.
Greg Roman's still going to run 3. Grant, they might throw a lot, but Greg Roman's just going to design plays where 3 receivers are standing next to each other the whole time, 500 times. Then you want to be a part of that passing offense.
He's also never had a quarterback that's near as good as Herbert as a passer.
As a passer,
pure passer. But yeah, no, I'm not caping up and saying Chargers are going to blow out, pass rate over expectation. They're going to be bottom 10 for sure. We got one, I think, kind of, I wouldn't say obvious.
Yeah.
But let's see what this dude does here with this. Yeah. All right. You want to take Musgrave?
I was thinking about that, and I think I would prefer Hunter Henry in a vacuum for this team. The reason is, well, actually, that doesn't really work.
No,
we could take Musgrave.
Let's take Musgrave here.
I was just thinking, like, we have Kelsey, so we can fairly safely assume, and we might be done at running back, so we can pencil this in for a 3 quarterback team. And by taking Hunter Henry, you have access to Drake May, who we're just talking about, like, rushing and floor. Like, what is different between Jaden Daniels and Drake May? The potential for Drake May to not be starting the entire season. Yeah. What does that matter as, like, your quarterback 2 or quarterback 3? Far less than the – oh, shit, I forgot we're picking again. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
I'm taking Roman Wilson here. We need another wide receiver.
And they play Baltimore week 16, so.
Yeah, this is about to die here, too. Yeah, it actually is. It's pretty much dead right here at this tier.
So another
goes here.
Like, what I was thinking in that with Hunter Henry is Hunter Henry, Demario Douglas, and now we have Drake May coming back to us much later in the draft, which is a potential. But, like, we don't have any Bills on this team, which would have influenced that decision for a week 16 opponent. We don't have any Chargers on this team, would have influenced that decision for week 17. So that's why it's okay. Like, this entire, like, this game that we're playing, like, the EV calculation is going to weight different things at different points in the draft. And it all depends on what the other 11 people are doing and what our previous picks were. And it's like, it's too much for us to comprehend and work through in 30 seconds. But, like, training this decision-making process kind of allows us to make those decisions more accurately than we would otherwise be able to. So those are the things I was thinking about there is, like, well, we could double tap New England Patriots here and get access to Drake May later. Does that benefit us as much as it would if we had Chargers or if we had Bills? Probably not, but we don't know at the same time. So I don't know. It's like this funky equation that we're thinking about at all of these decision points. So I don't know.
I was thinking this would be just a two quarterback, 2 tight end team. We got Purdy,
we
Love,
could do that too.
Plenty of touchdown equity. Obviously, Thomas was saying we don't have a lot of rushing equity at quarterback, but that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Tons of touchdown equity. And then we just go ham at receiver because, I mean, I don't know how you feel, but Ayuk and Debo is great. Godwin's, we love Godwin. We love Chris Godwin on the show, but we need some receivers, I think, on this team here.
Yeah, this would be a 9 comfy.
A really good 9 team. Yeah, we can get weird with a few of the last 2 picks as well.
I
know you like
really
one. Hilo, we've got some really cool stats coming out, man. Your boy Khalif Raymond,
dude,
really pops, bro. He really pops in one of them. I was talking to Brett this morning about Khalif. Big Godwin show, Mr. Scampers. Absolutely. Yeah, Godwin is at like 20% for me on Underdog. I'm at like 19, 20% on DK.
I think collectively through Dynasty Redraft and Best
Yeah.
Ball, I'm at about 70%.
Hell yeah. It's just, I think maybe Jacob said this on his when he was on, but it's like, we've been drafting Evans and Godwin relatively close together for the last couple of years. And this is the
4
first
years.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the first year they're
Yeah.
like completely separated. And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll just take
Back half for Godwin, he had a 30% target share. Ryan Heath mentioned it on Dynasty Points last
All
night.
we need is for his wife to get angry at the coaches.
That's what
every single week.
As soon as that hit, as soon as that happened, 30% target share last year. Like, and there's no way he stays at 34% slot rate, right? I see it going way more in 2022.
He's going
the 2 seasons prior, he was around 66% in each season, and they're talking about him going back. Yeah, like that's an additional 30% slot snap rate is huge for a guy that wins as frequently as he does within the first 5 yards of the line of scrimmage.
To me, for the Bucks, it comes down like I think Jalen McMillan is good. If he's really good and they can play him on the outside, they're just going to play Godwin on the inside. That's their best way to play.
Yeah,
that's their best way.
We expect them to be somewhere in the 65 to 70% 11 personnel frequency rate, which means like Chris Godwin is going to probably be closer to 35% perimeter rate and closer to 65% slot snap rate because he's an every down player, right? It's like Jalen McMillan is not going to see snaps on the perimeter over Chris Godwin. But in 11 personnel, he's going to hopefully shift to the slot at a heavier rate. So that's exactly what we want to maximize the upside of Chris Godwin.
Yeah, and I mean that's where he says he's most comfortable too. He's been on record in press conference saying I feel really comfortable there, not only just running routes, but he was mentioning his blocking too. Like he's a big part of their blocking. Godwin was an amazing pick in the 70s. I'm bummed he's not there anymore. But
you think about who he's blocking when he's lined up in the slot versus on the perimeter. He's blocking guys who are 5'10", 190. He's not blocking guys who are 6'3" cornerbacks, 210. Like he's the person who he is blocking matters to him as well, obviously. So I mean, he's not a massive guy.
All right, we're nearly back. Excuse me. Nearly back on the clock here. Yeah, there goes Mims. I was
gonna say Mims.
Hammering Mims. God, that's one guy I've really pushed up. Troy Franklin's working as their 5 wide receiver.
So we're just gonna. We still have opportunity to add another tight end if we want, and still get to 9. What are you thinking? You want to add? Are you set? We could add a running back, a quarterback, or a tight end here.
All right, let's take Elijah Mitchell with Purdy.
I like
full McCaffrey fade.
That's what we would do.
We'll be done. Done it.
Now we're just wide receiver. Just click the wide receiver tab.
Yeah.
Now don't even look elsewhere.
Yeah.
Any of these guys standing out here? We got 17.
Let's go. McMillan on this.
That's where I was leaning.
There's that
man.
There's that like ping pong effect that could happen like when it matters, and when we get to like the final 4 rounds of these, we're kind of thinking like single week upside becomes more important than median, right? Like our median guys are all the guys that we draft for 7 rounds. We need those guys to perform throughout the year or this roster's dead anyway. So these later picks are like, well, does he have a path to 101 type game to contribute when it matters? Maybe that happens when Chris Godwin has a down game, which would be optimal for us on this build.
Yep. Yeah, I like McMillan just straight up as a prospect. Scott had some metrics, in games where, O'Dunes and Polk played with McMillan. McMillan was better than Polk, and he was better in some games than even O'Dunze. And I mean, I'm a huge O'Dunze fan. I think McMillan might be like legit good. I just don't know how big his ceiling is unless Evans or Godwin gets hurt. But for this team, if Evans gets hurt, we're already set up great with Godwin, and then just having McMillan, who would come in 12 personnel then, like we were talking through. Hilo, is there anybody that you weren't drafting a ton of in May in that first window, but you've kind of bumped up now? Like any guys in this pocket from like 160 on that you found yourself drafting more of here?
Yes. Demarcus Robinson is one.
Nice.
Jalen Tolbert is one.
Yep.
I guess I would classify Khalif Raymond as one too, because I didn't get onto him until the schedule was released. Because obviously we're just hammering that game. The game of the season just happens to be Monday Night Football in Week 17. Yeah. It's like, let's go. Yeah, those are probably the ones I was hammering before the kind of off cuff beat report came out of New Orleans. I was taking A.T. Perry in this range, and I still mix him in every now and then. I saw somebody had posted on Twitter today or yesterday, just his absurd touchdown rate on the amount of targets that he had last season, his absurd red zone role. Do we expect that to grow now with Michael Thomas out of town? I do. So I was targeting him earlier, backed off a little bit now because I expected his ADP just to settle into the undrafted range more frequently than it was. Yeah, those are some of the big ones, I think, in this 17th, 18th round range.
Yeah, Demarcus Robinson makes a ton of sense. Obviously, he's got the wide receiver 3 role over Tutu, and then obviously if anything were to happen with Nakua.
Yeah, on the offense that led the league in 11 personnel rate last season. So
yeah,
it's going to be on the field.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking into some Kupp versus Nakua stuff. I know you're big on Kupp, and him coming back to being a first-round type caliber player is certainly well within the range of outcomes. But I was looking specifically at the first reads last year, and it was really close. Like Kupp had a few more first reads than Nakua. But if you look at further downfield at 10-plus yard targets, Nakua was easily number 1 on the team, first reads on targets 10 or more yards downfield. But T-Rob was actually second, and Kupp was third. Kupp just last season, the design stuff went more to Nakua, and the downfield stuff went more to Nakua and Robinson. 47% Robinson. That is strong, man.
Yeah,
that's really good work, because I bet you most of that's probably when he was in the 190s, 200s. He's getting steamed a bit. All right, last 2 picks, 2 wide receivers. We can take Tolbert here. Don't mind that at all for this team.
That's okay. Yeah, let's do
also
that.
Don't mind Khalif.
I mean, Week 16 Tampa for Jalen Tolbert.
Yep.
Yeah, let's round. We got to take Khalif with the heavy investment in San Francisco here. If we get to Week 17 and like I don't know this scenario, but like
the second best receiver on Detroit blows up. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, let's like say we get to Week 17 and CMC's hurt. This team needs some access to
some Detroit
full game stack there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I love it when a plan comes together here. We got the 9 wide receivers. Got some solid depth. 2 rookies to come on late, and Roman Wilson, Jalen McMillan. Full-on Niners stack.
Yeah, let's go.
Kittle. This is a solid team out of the 12 spot with a little Love back stack with Lloyd. The other guy I was thinking here to get weird if we didn't get Tolbert was Bo Melton, Packers wide receiver 5. He's going to be drafted in 2% BBM.
Yeah.
But for this team, 9 wide receivers, that was the other guy I had in mind.
All right, gents, I'm so sorry, but I got to run.
Yeah, this is great.
I got another one coming up, and I have to use the gentleman's room.
Yeah. We'll get you out of here. Hilo is ripping on Pros vs. Joes, so make sure you check him out. Pros vs. Joes is starting up this summer. Mark, just like I said, top of the show, go check out his Week 17 article, Into the Unknown, basically a huge DFS breakdown for when it matters most in best ball.
Too many words.
Oh, it's not enough, my friend. Not enough. That was an excellent piece. For Thomas, for Mark, hopefully if we don't win $1 million, we'll see you guys at the top of the leaderboard. See you next week.
What?
Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.